Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. Today's video I'm going to be making two sets of resin coasters in almost exactly the same way. The only difference in the method will be that I will be swapping one of my pigments for another very similar one, but the difference is going to be huge. So if you're like me and you're fascinated by the unpredictability and the magic of resin, stay tuned and enjoy the video. Everything I'm using today for both sets of coasters is from Resin Pro. And everything for both sets of coasters will be the same, apart from one of the pigments, which will be the interference blue for the first coasters, and the second time I'm going to try it with the interference gold, but everything else is the same. So I'm using transparent resin from Resin Pro. I'm using 2 shades of purple because I wanted to mix them together to get just the shade that I wanted. And I'm using the turquoise Pebeo liquid pigment, which I absolutely love. It's transparent and it's a jewel-like colour, and I think it's just absolutely beautiful. Okay then, so these round moulds with the handles are also from Resin Pro, and you're going to see in a minute why I love them so much. Each one of these moulds uses 100 millilitres of resin. I mixed up 500 because I needed some for something else, but basically all I needed was 400. Now, each one of these silicone pots takes 100 millilitres, so I've got 2 there, which I'm going to use for the purple and the green, and then I'm going to use the 200 that's left in the jug for my interference blue. So once the resin was in the pots, I added the mica powder, and I used quite a lot of the interference blue. I wanted it to be a good strong colour, and I wanted it to be quite heavy as well, so it would have that sinking effect that white pigments often do. And yeah, as you can see, there's white in there. It looks, when you see it in the bottle, it looks white, but it's got a hint of blue in there. It's got like a pearlescent effect. It's really beautiful. The only thing is, with these coasters, I found that the powder didn't mix into the resin as well as I thought it had. There were little bits that sank, and you could see them on the tops of a couple of the coasters. So when I do the next set, I've learned from that mistake, but at this stage I hadn't learned from that mistake, and so I put the mica powder in after the resin and just mixed it, and it wasn't as thoroughly mixed as I would have liked. So I'm just adding a little bit more. Like I said, I wanted it to be a good strong saturation throughout the resin. Next was the Pebeo liquid dye, and for that one, that was nice and simple. Because it's a liquid dye, you just pour a little bit in and give it a mix. Best if you do a little bit at a time until you get the density of colour that you're after. I wanted mine to be quite dark and jewel-like. The finish that I had in my mind would have been to have it as peacock colours. It didn't quite work out as peacock colours, but that was the purple I was going for, that, you know, the really royal dark jewel-like purple. That's what I wanted, and the only one I had was this one, and so I used that, and then I added some of that darker plum-like colour into it just to darken it up a bit. So that's the colour mixing done. The second set of coasters will be all exactly the same, except the interference blue will be interference gold instead. So I won't take you through all of that all over again. I'll just show you the pouring in the second one. So let's get started. So I said I was going to explain why I love these moulds so much, and it's that handle. You see where there's the piece that sticks up to form the hole in the finished coaster? Well, if you pour just behind that piece, you start to get some unusual effects. You can't tell at the moment, but you'll notice in a minute what will happen. So I'm alternating the colours. I'm doing the turquoise and then the interference blue, then turquoise and then the interference blue, and just alternating that for a little while. And I'm saving the purple for the end because I didn't want the purple to take over. I just wanted it to be at the handle area at the end. So I've sped it up quite a lot because I didn't want you to start to get bored. Wanted to keep it quite quick because there's another set of coasters coming in a moment. But I think by now you can probably see the effect that pouring into the handle has rather than pouring into the centre of a circular coaster. Having this bit sticking out to pour into fills it completely differently, and it's quite an unusual effect that you get because that little notch that's for the hole just separates it into two, and then it joins up again, and you'll see in the finished piece that you do get an unusual finish from this. Once I'd finished pouring, I left it until the next day to take it out of the mould. I could have done it in the evening, I was dying to, but they were still a bit bendy, and I always think it's better to wait until the next day. So let's see how these will look on the other side. I've just moved house and the craft room that I have now is different. My desk is right next to the window. So I'm really struggling with lighting at the moment. So you might have to bear with me until I sort out the lighting situation in my new craft room. Anyway, let's have a look on the other side. I think you'll be surprised how different it is on the bottom to the top, or the top to the bottom. The bottom will be the top. Let's have a look. So there, it's very, very subtle in these ones, but even though it's very subtle, I think it's so beautiful. When you get it in certain lights, you can see it better, and maybe in these photographs, you can see it better too. You've just about got that cloud effect, and you've got some lovely veining in there. And I really love how the purple, by adding it at the end, kind of frames it just at that side near the handle. And I just love that. I think it's just so pretty. Okay, so I loved that so much I wanted to immediately have another go. And I did exactly the same thing again, as I've already told you, except this time I used the interference gold from Resin Pro instead of the interference blue. And you will be surprised at what a massive difference just making that substitution made. Absolutely, yeah, completely different. The other thing that I did do different this time was when I was mixing up the interference gold, I just made a little bit of a paste by adding a tiny bit of resin into my cup and then mixing in the gold really, really well, and then the rest of the resin. And that way you avoid any powdery bits remaining and dropping to the bottom, which is what happened on my first set a little bit. Now at this point I decided it might be quite nice to add a little bit of glitter into the last little bit of purple. And I wish I hadn't. You know, when you're doing something and you're kind of thinking as you're doing it, this is a mistake, I shouldn't be doing this. I kind of knew as soon as I did it, I shouldn't have done it. Anyway, I added some glitter right at the end. And for this last one, I was just using my leftovers. I didn't add any glitter this time. And again, that feeling that you get where you just know it's going to be your best one. I knew it was going to be my best one as soon as I started pouring the last one. It's always the case. The thing I make using my leftovers is always the best. I was quite mesmerised by the magic that was going on here, so I did you a little bit of a close-up and I sped it up just to show you what was going on. Oh, I do love resin. The things it does, it's just unbelievable. Right, okay, so let's get these ones out of the mould and try to imagine it without the glitter. Actually, I'm quite sure there'll be someone who comments and says, oh no, the glitter's great, but I just didn't like it. See what you think. Look at all the pillowing. Now, isn't that a transformation to the other one? So I know I said the only difference was the interference gold instead of the blue, but actually, as I was watching it back to narrate it, it's not the only difference. I poured it differently. I added the purple earlier than I did with the other one, so that will have made a difference too. And here's the one I made with my leftovers. And this one, as predicted, is my favourite by far. It makes me think of a tree. Is anyone else thinking that it looks like a tree? I also think it looks a bit like a brain with the brain stem. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I love it. I just think it's so interesting. And yeah, another good thing about these coasters is because it's got that hole, you can, thread something through it to decorate it with beads on or whatever. I'm going to put tassels on mine and I'll show you a picture in a moment. But yeah, here's the rest of them. And they're all pretty much identical. So yeah, I'll fast forward through this. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the effects. I just wish I hadn't used that glitter. Here they are all together, and you can see from my crafty placement, I'm trying to pretend the handles don't exist. Without the handles, they just look so great. But anyway, there it is. Now then, I will show you it with the tassels on and a little bit of gold edging. One thing I love about the interference colours is the finished piece looks different depending on the lighting. On this one, they look like they're a completely different set of coasters. And I haven't altered the colour, in the editing or anything. This is how it looks in a different light. So that blue looks a lot lighter there, doesn't it? And yeah, love them, kind of. Love most of them. So we've come to the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it and I hope you like the finished pieces that I made. And if you are interested in buying these moulds or any of the things I used today, I will leave all my Resin Pro links in the description along with my discount code. I will see you again very soon. Thank you for watching and bye for now.